Good evening, everybody, to the Effin' Wrestling channel. I am the Effin' expert, Mr. Isaacs, and I have a very special guest this evening. This is not the magic of wrestling. This is my own solo show, and I've got a buddy of mine that I've known for probably 20 some years. We went to school together, lifelong wrestling fan. You'll know him for a different reason. You probably have seen his face and his son's face on news sites before. We'll get into that. It's my buddy Tim. What's going on, man?
How's it going?
Good, good, my man. Very glad you could be with us this evening. I know we were kind of wanting to do this last weekend. I think you were in Nashville doing something.
Was
Yeah, what'd you have going on down there?
CMA Fest, Country Musical Festival.
Ah, yes. See, on top of being a huge wrestling fan, he's a huge country music nerd too. So,
And rock, but
all right. Well, the main reason why we wanted to bring you on here and what most people are going to recognize you from is this image right here. Now, I don't know if any of you read the article about this, but this gentleman and his son met MJF at a convention. So I'm just going to go ahead and pitch it to you and let you tell the story of where you met him, what it was like going up to him, and all that kind of stuff. Can you give us a little background here?
yeah. This was at Squared Circle Expo. It's held in Indianapolis, Indiana. Usually the first Friday and Saturday of April every year. This was actually the fourth year they've done it. It started out small, and this was by far the biggest year. I mean, you had MJF there, so he was only there one day. But you have tons of wrestling. They had over 60 superstars, female and male. A lot of the ECW originals were there this year. They do panels. Uh, they actually did 2 live wrestling shows this year. They usually do one on Saturday night. They did 2 this year. Create a Pro. Am I saying that right?
I think so. Yeah.
I think their organization, they did the Friday night show, and then SEX did their Saturday night show, which is now the world champion is Matt Cardona, the indie god.
Oh, yes.
So he'll definitely be back next year. He's actually defending the title on the Indies. He defended it against Jake Christ in Indiana a couple weeks ago. I was at but MGM or MJF was a pro op, was a regular meet and greet. We had a VIP pass. They only sell about 150 of these for this event. They usually go on sale in September, so that's a cheap plug if you want to save your money now. Which that you bypass all the lines when you get autographs. They have their own separate lines, so you're not waiting forever. But my son had 2 MJF Chase figures to get signed, and they had him in a private room away from everybody because he's that special, obviously. And so we prior to meeting him, they let the handicapped people go first. They had a couple people in wheelchairs, and MJF was very rude to them. And while before it started, they actually had the people running the expo came out, talked to the huge line of people that was wrapped around through the hotel, out the door, and around the outside of the building. There was that many people.
Wow.
And because he was only there one day, so they were going to get as many people in. But they warn you up front. He's a prick. They say you're paying for the MJF experience. There's no, if you cry, you cry. If you get offended, you get offended. It is what it is. And they weren't going to offer refunds for how you got treated. So,
see, I was kind of wondering about that. I was wondering if there was some kind of disclaimer, if they had something hanging on the wall, or somebody was going around like, look. Yeah. And I don't know what the terminology is. I don't know if they say the guy's in character, or if they just say, "Hey, the guy's a dick." Like,
no, they just say it's MJF, and if you know MJF, you know who MJF is, and that's what you're going to get. They called it the MJF experience, and that's
the MJF experience. That's interesting. So, Effin' Wrestling says, "Welcome to Effin' Wrestling."
But the guy in the wheelchair, he's about 10 people in front of us. So we could see what was going on, He was a veteran, had on a service hat on him, but he couldn't stand up or nothing. And when he gets up to MJF's table, MJF stands up from his chair. He's like, "Look what I could do," and because the guy can't stand, and everybody busted. The guy in the wheelchair, he took it in stride.
Yeah.
And but he was some people were being demanding, like wanting signatures on a certain spot of what they had. They charge different prices for pictures, which he has with him, and then your collectible figures and all that are more money. I think it was $60 a piece per figure, which is reasonable. I've seen people charge $100 to sign a figure, which is crazy. But I want to say Adam Cole did that last year. I can't remember for sure. But if people were interacting with him prior to him signing or whatever, he was just taking their figures. He'd sign them, throw them across the room. Chase figure or regular figure, because obviously chase figures, they're rare. He didn't care. They weren't in case because they were out of the case that people had them in to get signed, and he would just chuck them. There's videos on TikTok. If you type in MJF squared circle, a lot of the videos from that are on there.
I did see some of it. There's a TikToker who's a woman, a very attractive woman. She went and met MJF at that same expo and videoed the thing, and he was like, "Yeah, so you're gonna come back to my room, right? Yeah, I'm gonna write down my room number here, and you're gonna come there, right?" And like he never like cracked a smile or anything. So, so it's like, is this guy being serious or like what's the deal here?
He's probably being serious because he did say the wrestlers, the third floor of the hotel is reserved for them. They have security that stays on the floor so nobody can come up and try to bother anybody. We did see him. He walked in while we were in the lobby checking in, so that probably did happen.
Fascinating.
Maybe with more. He's the champ. I mean, hell, he can't.
So your little boy, like, and first off, Joseph Graham, good evening, sir. Glad to have you here.
Good evening.
Your little boy, like, I guess obviously he knew going into this that MJF was going to be like this. Did you have a talk with him and explain this to him, or did he already have an idea?
Yeah, I told him straight up. My son's 13. He turned 13 right prior to this, and I told him, "You don't cry." I said, if he takes your figure and just stomps the hell out of it, hey, I'm not 100 and whatever bucks I paid for it. Whatever.
Now listen, if he locks your dad in the salt of the earth and he's breaking my arm, just run for the damn door. Don't bother.
Yeah, just go. let it happen.
So when you guys were there, how long did you have to wait in line? I know you said you were kind of close to the front, right?
We were VIP. That they did VIP first. We were about 15th in line. So once he got there, he was running about 20 minutes late. They got everybody in pretty quick.
So describe what happened. Like when you guys got there, got up to his table, like describe the interaction, like from the start of it. Like what was the first thing he said to you? Where did it go from there?
He didn't speak to my son. My son didn't try to speak to him, which probably, I'm sure he was intimidated. I stayed back. I didn't. Because when I do these shows with my son, I let him get the autograph and stuff like that. That's his. I grew up on wrestling. He's into it now.
Right.
I let him. I meet some of the people, but it's mainly for him. In the first figure that he got signed, MJF threw it at him and he dropped it. So MJF yelled out, "Butterfingers" real loud in the room. So he was embarrassed, but he was laughing too. Well, by the time he picked the first chase figure up, he done signed the second one and threw it also. But luckily, my son realized it and was able to catch it, so he didn't get caught Butterfingers again. But he's I guess it depends on how much you bother him, is how much crap he's going to give you. So,
well, how did he react when your son caught the second one? Like, how did he react to that?
He didn't. He had somebody else up next to us, and he just went on to. He was asking what they wanted, or they were pointing what they want to sign, and he was just kind of giving the dirty look, like, yeah, whatever. And, I think some stuff people want to sign a certain way. He did it the exact opposite way they wanted it. But and people did get mad. There were people talking about it, not in the room, but outside of the room at the convention, that they paid quite a bit of money to meet him, plus paid quite a bit of money on top of that to get something signed, a collectible, and they asked for a certain signature in a certain color, and he did it what he wanted to do. Again, that's that they don't have to do what you ask them to do. I mean, most of them oblige. I know some people. Was it Britt Baker? Britt Baker last year. The blood and guts figure. I don't know if you've seen it from their line. The match she had with Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day, I believe, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But I can't. There's an inscription that she refuses to sign for that figure. I can't remember what it was. But I wish I had it here. I've got it here somewhere. She signed it for us. She stopped doing it after that convention last year.
Huh.
But MJF, what you see on TV is exactly what you get. He's the only wrestler that I know. He don't change for nobody. He's not going to change for nobody, which I think it's a good thing. I love it.
He's keeping kayfabe alive, right?
Yeah.
That's something that's kind of like an old relic of the past now in the business. There's just not really kayfabe anymore, but he's kind of like trying to interject some new kayfabe into modern wrestling. And I think that's a good thing. It helps you suspend disbelief. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I hate how everybody always blames Hall, Nash, Shawn, and Triple H for ruining kayfabe for the Madison Square Garden incident.
Right.
If they didn't do it, somebody else is going to do it. I mean,
the curtain call, is what you're referencing, right? At the house show. Yeah.
It's a bad look. And how the hell did somebody get a camcorder in Madison Square Garden?
You got a bit of a conspiracy theory going there, Tim. I like it. You think somebody was out to get them, huh? Smuggling in the camera?
And went in all the way in the nosebleeds because I know he had to zoom in like hell to get that shot.
Yeah, I mean, whoever it was, it's been a while since I've seen it, but whoever it was that captured that footage, they were pretty high up off the ground. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were kind of close to the upper deck.
Yeah. Yeah. Kayfabe needs to be there.
Well, we do have a question here from Monaco. What age did you get into wrestling?
It's probably about 3 or 4 years old. Probably about 4 for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably about the case for me too. Because I have an uncle that was like a super fan of wrestling, right? Like he had the actual physical newsletters of the Pro Wrestling Torch.
Yeah.
It was like the folded up, stapled in the middle newsletter that he would actually get mailed to him by Wade Keller. I remember looking at those when I was like a little boy. So I was probably about 5 or so when I got into it.
Yeah.
So you got a year or two jump on me even. Like who got you into wrestling? Was it your
That was my grandfather and my cousin. He had the little old school cable box.
Oh, the black box.
Yeah, he would take it to my grandpa's house. Anytime there was a pay-per-view, he would hook it up there. We would watch it together. That's where I learned my first cuss words too.
Ah.
So my grandpa took that stuff serious, and when the bad guys the horsemen were attacking Dusty Rhodes and all that kind of stuff, I was F this, F that, and every little word you can think of. So.
Oh, that was a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all the old timers, they used to get pissed off whenever poor Dusty would get beat down by the 4 horsemen.
Yeah. You don't see good beatdowns like that now. But.
That was a big deal. Now, did they watch WWF as well, or were they just NWA guys?
We got every paper show, that big show they did, and then my cousin would always record them on VHS, and then usually he'd give it to me when I got older, and I could take it home and record it. Have multiple VCR sets where I could record it, have my own copy of it instead of having to go to the video store and buy it.
Yeah, I did something very similar with my uncle's collection. Yeah, I remember like I remember taking home Chi-Town Rumble from NWA. Do you remember that?
Steamboat and Flair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That great Steamboat Flair match, which
Oh
was
yeah.
just phenomenal. One of my favorite matches of all time. Better than Steamboat versus Savage at WrestleMania. I know F and Wrestling disagrees with me on that.
It's a great match.
But it was a great match. Yeah, I loved it. I fell in love with that match. And I'm pretty sure that I took his tape home and made a copy of it myself, the same way you just described.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of built my foundation of old school wrestling fandom as well. So I know where you're coming from. And then, of course, when you and I met was in high school. And that was at the height of the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars. And that was good times. Do you have lots of good fond memories of that era?
Yeah, well, my first memories at home when every time Stone Cold would come out and start cussing, my mom would tell me to turn the TV off. When he come out and raise hell every Monday night. She was like, "Why are you watching that garbage? Can you turn that off?" And back then, you're trying to record one show and watch WCW on the other channel. So you record one, watch the other, then you go back after that goes off, stay up for another 2 hours, and then watch the show you just hate.
Right.
Because you didn't have cell phones and all that back then.
So for those younger in the audience that think that we're talking about dinosaur technology here, so back during the Monday Night Wars era, and you had Raw and you had Nitro on simultaneously, a lot of times we would tape one on one TV and watch the other live on the other TV. Yep. And that was the only way you could kind of follow both, because at the start, Nitro had a replay that would air it like as soon as they go off. Do you remember that at like 11 o'clock at night? Yep. But then I guess they got hip to the fact that people were watching Raw and then kicking it over to Nitro for the replay, and they got rid of the replay. So that was kind of the only way that you could do that. And
if you could afford pay-per-views, you would turn it to the pay-per-view channel, and you could hear it, but you couldn't see it.
Yeah, you'd have like the deal with like the scrambled image.
Yeah,
but you could actually hear the commentary.
I did that so many times. I would sit there and just try to visualize what match was going on, but the sound came in perfectly clear.
You could kind of just pretend that you were like listening to like a sporting event on the radio, like how you could listen to like UK basketball on the radio. I got my Kentucky hat on to represent here. It's kind of a similar situation, right? You could just kind of visualize it in your head, but then just listen to the commentary, which of course the commentary was great back in those days. It doesn't suck shit like now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But yeah, I have distinct memories of like I went to Monday Night Raw when it was in Lexington the night after Survivor Series, and
that was the
I think it was
one.
Yeah, in like '98. Yep. It was it's unreal. I can't stress to younger fans what kind of cultural impact that era had on society. Like, it's not like today where wrestling's kind of a niche product. Like, it was like very, very mainstream back then. I think a lot of younger fans have a hard time wrapping their heads around that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was very organic, I guess the term you would use. It's all very natural. And obviously, they got away with a lot more back then, and everybody wants them to go back to that era, but it'll never happen.
It couldn't happen. No.
No way. The only way to happen is if they put Monday Night Raw on WWE Network, which they're not obviously going to do that, but that's the only way you'll get something like that again.
Well, I mean, the plus two society has just moved past that. Like that. I mean, if you go back and look at it now, it doesn't hold up well by today's standards.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of misogyny, a lot of racism. I mean, practically every kind of ism you could think of is it's conveyed in some capacity.
Today, I know some people may not have seen this yet. And if you haven't, you need to go watch it. Look up the D-Generation X versus Nation of Domination feud.
Oh no!
And watch.
I know where you're going with this.
Type in D-Generation X as Nation of Domination. You'll never see that on TV ever.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, you cannot find it on Peacock. They had literally eliminated that.
Yep.
But they were all dressed as members of the Nation of Domination, including X-Pac, who was dressed as Mark Henry in blackface.
And his name was Bismarck.
Bismarck, yeah.
The blackface, yeah.
Yeah. This something that you're just absolutely not going to see in 2023. And like I said, that segment is literally not even on Peacock. Like if you go back and watch that episode of Raw, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's literally not there.
The best part about that segment was Owen Hart, by the way.
Evan Wrestling says Steamboat Savage was amazing. And the reason why I made the comment about Flair Steamboat being better is because he and I had a disagreement about that on a show prior. Now, what do you think was better? Do you think Flair Steamboat was better or Steamboat Savage?
I'd go Steamboat Savage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's definitely one of the greatest WWE matches of all time. There's no doubt about it.
It may just be because the crowd, it's obviously a bigger event, atmosphere, stuff like that. Back then, even today, even a big stadium show is, it's an adventure to go to. If nobody's ever been to one, I highly suggest it. I went to the crappy Royal Rumble from last year.
Yeah, you go to a lot of shows, don't you?
Yeah.
Like you travel to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Is the Royal Rumble the biggest show you've gone to?
It was until I was at SummerSlam in Nashville last year.
Ah, yes, when they came to Nashville.
That was by far better than the Royal Rumble. Seeing Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar win.
Right.
Fans were not happy.
You weren't a fan of that?
Yeah, no. And Shane McMahon coming out, that's not a surprise entrance. That's, Karma got him at WrestleMania this year. So, but yeah, by far, stadium shows are. People think it's. I know some people don't like them just because of the amount of people. The sound on TV is not what you hear in person. I know they pipe in a lot of noise these days. They don't get the reactions they want and stuff, but.
And I hate that. Like personally, I hate that. I hate the piped in crowd noise.
Yeah.
I hate that extra bullshit because it's like you can tell very obviously that it's fake. And to me, when I watch it, it really takes me out of the show whenever I hear that because it's like then you can't even tell what the genuine reaction of the crowd is, but it's obviously mild enough to where they have to pipe in noise.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know about you, but it takes me out of it whenever I hear that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Effin Wrestling says you got to introduce him to Natalia Markova. Now, we kind of talked about Natalia Markova a little bit before we went on the air because I was telling him that Natalia Markova was the model of the shirt that we're going to show later. But she's in the NWA, and she is really good. I'd recommend checking her out. Do you ever check out Billy Corgan's NWA? Have you ever watched that?
I'm sure I keep up with them through Twitter. It's rare I get to see any of their shows, but I do follow their Twitter page. Brodus still is not their champion, or Tyrus, not Brodus.
He is. Yeah,
he
Tyrus is still their champion.
Yeah, that was the
Brodus Clay is the NWA heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's the biggest shock in wrestling in the last year, maybe.
Yeah, it's just kind of a weird thing because, like, I guess that Billy Corgan kind of wants to. It fits his throwback aesthetic to have like the big guy be a world champion. But I mean, let's be honest, Tyrus is not Vader.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't have that level of talent. I mean, he's okay, but I don't think he's world championship material.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
No, yeah, he's not. He's finding a good big man these days is. I think they got talent, WWE and Omos, but they're just not. They just don't want to give him the chance. I mean, I don't think he's been on TV since the draft. Maybe I think he was on.
So
there.
Tim, what you're telling me here is that you were an Homo sapien.
Yeah, I think he's got potential. I'm not a Homo sapien yet.
That's what he calls his fans, right? The Homo sapiens. I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah. I've heard. Yeah, but big. It sucks that there's very few. Like when people say dominant big man, first thing I think of now is Brock Lesnar. I mean, he's just a machine that I'd take really make the guy mad. But, 7 foot guys, the guy that AEW has. I don't even know his
Satnam Singh.
Yeah, with Jarrett and Lethal. He's just there for looks. I mean, they're not going to. And obviously, they don't have any kind of developmental or training. You know, they're not. So those guys like that, even if they had the potential, they're not going to get the help they need to.
Well, I believe that Satnam Singh is training at the Nightmare Factory, I guess, or whatever they call it now. The factory, I guess. I can't call it Nightmare anymore because of Cody.
Yeah.
QT Marshall School. Yeah.
Those are good teachers to have.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how old Satnam Singh is, but I think he's still kind of in training. So I think that's why they use him mostly just kind of as a henchman at the moment, to my understanding, at least.
Yeah.
Monaco asks, "Are you a fan of the Harts?"
Absolutely. Bret Hart is my all-time favorite wrestler.
Exactly.
All time.
Now, we're like kind of notorious for being Bret Hart marks on this channel. So like that's going to win you a lot of favor here.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of the technical wrestling part of pro wrestling. I'm not a big fan of the choreographed spot, or who was it that said flippity? Braun Strowman made a flippity flop comment. I'm not a fan.
Right.
Like when it's choreo, they make it look just so bad, and they do it so much. Like every match, you'll see. Speaking of AEW, is what I'm talking about. You'll see a guy do a suicide dive through the rope. You'll see him do a plancha over, or a jump over the top rope to the outside. The very next match, hell, even maybe the next two matches, you'll see the same thing. It's like, it's not. You shouldn't have everybody doing that, and that's why I love, like, Daniel Bryan, Claudio, your technical wrestling people. Even Shawn Michaels was one of the great technical wrestlers. Him and Brett put on a clinic at WrestleMania 12 and the Iron Man match and everything, but they could probably went 2 hours if they let them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
As long as they didn't break down and start like literally beating the shit out of each other because they hated each other so bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for them guys to put on the level of matches they did with the hatred they really had for each other, they were good businessmen. They knew the money was there to be made.
Yeah.
Put their differences aside, even to this day, even when they made up on TV. And I remember Dayton, Ohio, January 4th of I don't remember the year though, but I don't believe that was a true, burying the hatchet kind of thing. That, they just did that for TV, but
right.
That's when they started coming out with documentaries and all the behind the scenes stuff. But,
was that when they both came out on Raw or something like that? And is that what you're talking about? I think I remember that.
Yeah, they shook hands, and then I think that's when Vince started a feud with him for WrestleMania out in Arizona that year.
Monaco says that was in 2010. That sounds about right, because I think that's when Brett was doing the general manager shtick, right?
Yeah.
Before he got attacked by the Nexus and then just disappeared forever.
He was great to watch. Him and his brother Owen. If Owen was still alive, he would have been no telling how many times he'd have held a world title. But just watching him wrestle, I don't know how many times I went back and watched their Survivor Series '94, I believe, steel cage match. I think it was the same year they wrestled at WrestleMania too.
It was the same year. Yeah.
So I mean, I still got my Bret Hart DVDs. Most of my wrestling DVDs I get rid of, but like my Bret Hart stuff, no.
You always had a ton of wrestling DVDs.
I did.
Like I remember borrowing DVDs from you back before like any of the streaming stuff was a reality.
Yeah.
But I have I've got the Bret Hart set too. I can't remember what it's called. Best Story is or something like that. But yeah, I've got that set too with all his best matches on it. Those matches with Owen, man, they tore the house down. Those two worked so well together, and where they were siblings, they knew like everything about each other, right? And they had perfect chemistry together. And I mean, that's one of the greatest feuds in WWE history, as far as from a pure technical standpoint, no doubt. I love both of those matches, definitely. And Effin' Wrestling wants to know, what is Tim's thoughts on Jungle Boy? Are you a Jungle Boy fan, Tim?
No,
No.
no. And I think
What is Jungle Boy lacking for you?
his mic skills for one, which I think he's publicly admitted that he's not the best on the mic, but I think the hair needs to go.
Really?
I
You
think
he
him
needs to get
changing his
rid of the
look up.
hair?
Yeah, just drop the whole Jungle Boy thing. I mean, I know they added Jack Perry to his name now, but because JR always kept calling him Jack Perry on TV, I guess they finally said, "Oh, we're just gonna throw it that one."
JR's stubborn refusal to call him Jungle Boy, just led to them eventually just calling him Jack Perry.
Yeah. He could be a world champion, but I don't think they'll ever pull that trigger. I don't think that there'll be enough fan support, and they don't have. Obviously, they only got one. I wish they had a cruiserweight division. I think there's a lot of talent in AEW with the 300 people on their roster that they have. It seems like to have a hell of a cruiserweight division. That WWE dropped.
I don't understand why they don't do that, because to me, I mean, AEW has tons and tons of cruiserweights. Like, I would love to see like a junior heavyweight. I mean, they like to follow New Japan, so call it junior heavyweight. But just create a smaller weight class title, because they have so many guys that are so good at that.
Yeah.
And that way you can get away with get away from having like the small guys against like Big Bill, you know? Like it just aesthetically looks kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and make Danhausen your first champion.
Oh, Danhausen, there you go. Very evil. Evan Wrestling wants to know, what do you think about him as a wrestler? Like, so you don't. Evan Wrestling's a big Jungle Boy fan. I'm just throwing that out there. But what do you think of him just actually from an in-ring perspective? Do you like his work at all?
I like his work. I became more of a fan after his match with Luchasaurus. I believe that was at Full Gear, maybe, or the pay-per-view before that last year.
Yeah.
I think that elevated him career-wise to step out on his own. The whole thing with Christian, it didn't go. The feud with Christian didn't do nothing for me.
You didn't like the Jungle Taker gimmick?
No, the whole thing with that fell flat. I think for the whole feud they had. I think they could have drugged the Luchasaurus feud out a little bit longer. I was waiting for Marco Stunt to come back in and get in the feud, but
jeez.
But I fear they throw a curveball at us, but they didn't on that one. But
no,
he's got the potential.
Back to GCW. Now, do you watch GCW? Do you ever watch that?
What is it?
Do you ever watch GCW?
I don't get to watch the shows, but I do keep up with them on Twitter and everything.
Yeah. I think that's where Marco Stunt went back to. I think he went back to GCW.
Yeah. I almost went to the show in Nashville before SummerSlam last year. They were down there.
So you've been to a GCW show?
No, I almost went.
Oh, okay.
They were down the street from my hotel, but we already had tickets to SummerSlam Saturday night. Then we had tickets to Ric Flair's farewell match, which I hope.
Oh, you went to that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't want to overdo it because we were in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, the whole previous week, so we were burned out on everything. But
yeah. How was that Ric Flair's last match event? Like, what was the vibe of that like?
The crowd was great. They had an old school NWA setup with the announcers and everything. Got the old school feel for it. Yeah. There was a lot of talent there. Bret Hart was even there. He was sitting rings. He came out ringside for Rick's match. Undertaker, Mick Foley came out. Which they showed them and everything. But they had cruiserweights. They had a lot of. It was a few days prior to Karrion Kross coming back. I think he debuted back on SmackDown that following week. So I think Ric Flair's last match was on Sunday, and then like Karrion Kross came back to SmackDown on that Friday. He fought Davey Boy Smith's son at that show. It was a really, really good match.
Yeah.
I did get to see the Briscoes fight the Von Erichs. The only time I ever got to see the Briscoes wrestle.
That's special.
It was a treat. Obviously what happened to Jay sucks, but getting to see him live and the crowd, they were so over and always have been, obviously. But yeah, Ric Flair had no business in the ring. I know they showed him training for a month and a half or 2 months.
What did the crowd think about the fake heart attack spot?
there was mixed reviews. I personally didn't like it.
I thought that was a pretty bad taste. Yeah.
Especially at his age, because I mean, who's going to know if it's planned or not?
Well, that's the thing. Like, did people in the crowd think it was legitimate, or did most people just think it was part of it?
There was people around me. I was sitting behind the hard cam, so the ring was directly in front of me. There was people around me that were legit, like, oh my god, and thought it was because you could just the way he was in the ring, he was so gassed. You know, he could only do a few spots, and even the finish, you know, they had to help him get through it. Yeah, I know he. I mean, I've seen him wrestle when he was in his prime. I think the last time I saw him before that, he fought Umaga at Rupp Arena in Lexington at Backlash. 2006. And he got destroyed then, but at least then he could wrestle.
Right.
But I know he got paid well for the show. I'm sure he did it for the money. I don't think it was more. And plus, he's come out publicly. It was for him, but I think he could have done it a different way. I think it made him look. It made people think bad of him. You know, it wasn't a good look for him, really.
Yeah, it was a very carny thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he went in there. He's like 70 years old, or close to it. Went out there, had a horrible match, looked like shit, faked a heart attack. And then when people criticized him for it, he went on this podcast and said, well, I got all your money. You're all stupid.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I mean, it's just, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Yeah.
And then when he came out and talked about doing another match after that, I was like, I think I tweeted the Conrad. I was like, if he does another match, I want a full refund for all the money I spent at his last match. Because that's false advertising. You know, I was mad.
Did he respond by trying to sell you a mortgage?
No. The only wrestler that's ever
Conrad Thompson, you gonna get you a mortgage, first family mortgage.
The only wrestler to ever respond to me is MJF. So going back to the photo. So.
Well, I'm glad you did that, because we kind of need to segue back and kind of finish the story of the MJF deal here.
Yeah. So after the meet and greet for figures, he did pro photo ops. He did selfies at his table too. You can get, but I like doing the pro photo ops, so I have a bigger picture. Good cameras and stuff. And they did it in another private room. Well, he was sitting in a chair. He wasn't standing for nobody. The people in front of me had a little kid. A girl probably about 4, maybe 5. He picked her up and just he held her like, where's my camera? He just held her to the side of him, like he didn't want no part of her. She looked at the camera and everything, and the family loved it. You know, they knew what they were going to get.
Right.
They were trying to get like a Santa Claus picture, and he was like, nope, don't want a part of it. But yeah, when we went up to stand next to him, I didn't say nothing to him. I know how he was. I didn't want to interact. There's a lot of wrestlers that they'll introduce themselves to you prior to you saying something to them. I've had a lot of that over the years. The most nicest person that weekend of all people was John Moxley.
Really?
He was a late addition to Saturday. Mm-hmm. He came in with Renee because she was already advertised, and he was, fist bumping. He didn't say a lot, but he when we got a pro photo op with him, he made he grabbed my son, made sure he was in front of the picture, and he would interact with people, but when we stood next to MJF, I didn't say nothing to him. I just I stood a few inches away to the right of him, and I was looking at the camera because when they do the pro photo ops at this place, it's rush. They take a few pictures, and they only print out one picture that they think is a good picture, but they'll put them online the next day, maybe the same day, and you may have 3 or 4 pictures on there from the same set. So if you want more pictures, or if there was a better one than the one they printed for you, whatever. So you get your money's worth. And most of them average about $75, and he only did 150 of these. So his appearance fee, he said, was the highest, which I'm sure it was. Don't know what it was. I'm sure it was in the $50,000 range.
Right.
I know he made $35,000 off pictures, and God knows what he made on autographs. $60 a pop. Do the math, and he he flew into Indianapolis. The airport's right next to the hotel they do it at, the Wyndham West, right by the hotel or the airport. He flew in, got paid, went to sleep, got up, flew out of the city, and
that was it.
That was it. But when I stood next to him, my son was to the left of me. I heard him say, "Oh," like that. And when he did that, I didn't take my eyes off the camera.
Yeah.
And then I realized that MJF had nut slapped him.
Oh, jeez.
And so when he did it, he said, "Got him."
Oh.
Like I laughed my ass off. I mean, it was hilarious. And it was hilarious then, but it was more hilarious because when they print the pictures out, it takes a few minutes. They have a table outside in the hallway. A lady or worker will bring them out, put them on the table, and you just have to find your picture. Well, my son's up here at the table waiting. I stood off to the side, and they bring his picture out. He didn't see it yet, but there's other people that saw it before him. Started busting out laughing, and I'm like, I said, "Well, somebody got a good picture." Well, when he got it and brought it to me, I saw why they were laughing because it was like the perfect picture.
That somebody was you, pal.
Yeah, and
So, just for a point of reference here, while you're describing this, let me just put this back up here one more time so that people know exactly what we're talking about here. You see your son kind of doubled over here and laughing.
Yeah,
MJF's got a sly smile on his face.
Yeah.
And
he was standing closer to him at the time, but when the picture happened, he got slapped. He had come off to the side a little further away from him. But he didn't complain. He talked about that all night. And at the wrestling at the show that night, that was a Squared Circle show. People, we were standing in line for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get inside. They were setting the ring, the chairs up, and people in the lobby and stuff were recognizing, "Hey, that's the kid that got nut slapped." No, what day that? No, it was Saturday night. So I put it on Twitter when I got back to my room prior to the wrestling show starting that night. So then, I tagged Square Circle, and people started responding to it that were there, and so he got recognized. And he thought,
he became a celebrity, right?
Yeah. And then the next morning, no, this happened on Friday, because he was supposed to be Saturday, got moved to Friday is what it was, because Saturday morning, he got recognized Saturday night at the show. But I looked at my Twitter Saturday morning, had a bunch of alerts, and I think what did my Twitter say? It was related to the picture, and I think it said "best day ever," "best photo," whatever, something like that. And
I believe what he said was, I should have taken a picture of it, but I believe he said something like it was the only time that I smiled all day.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
He replied that was the only time that he had smiled that day in replying to that picture. And then it blew up and had like over 1 million views and stuff like that. And my son, it was all for him anyway. And he Fightful.com asked for to do it. They reached out for to interview him, and we didn't work out the details to get that done. But
we got the exclusive right here.
Yeah, you got the exclusive.
I'm the only podcaster that has had you on to tell this story. So up yours, Fightful. Sean Ross Sapp, the guy that runs Fightful, like he's a Lexington guy. You know this, right? Yeah. I actually ran into him at Dynamite.
I believe I think he got in the ring and attacked one of the Friday Night Creative Pro show. He got in the ring and attacked somebody.
Yeah, he did get involved in a show. Yeah. But he's from Lexington. Yeah. And he was at the Rupp show, the Dynamite show back in January, because he actually walked right past me. And I was almost like, "Hey, Sean Ross Sapp." But I figured he'd be like, "Who the hell's this idiot like hollering at me?"
Yeah.
Was it him that reached out to you, or was it somebody else?
No, it was another guy from the website. They reached out through Twitter. I follow them. I already followed Sean, but now I follow the guy that reached out to me.
Now, did you get a whole bunch of new Twitter followers from this?
Maybe 20, 25.
Really? Yeah. Okay. I would have thought like a bunch of people would have flocked to you to see like what you had to say about it afterwards.
Yeah. It was definitely a cool moment. And anybody watching this, if you want true wrestling meet and greets, experiences, that show is the. I don't know how they can top it next year. I mean, you had MJF, you had they got Christian this year. The uh, there's so many big names.
And this is in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah, it's in Indianapolis, right by the airport. Same place every year. You can actually book a hotel at the place the event happens, so it makes it nice to get your autographs, take them back to your room. You don't have to pack that stuff all the way around.
I think that's very interesting that Moxley was the coolest guy. Now, he didn't bleed on you or anything, right?
No, he didn't wrestle. He did his
He
thing.
didn't blade at the table or anything?
No.
Okay.
The year before was rough for they came. Adam Cole and Hangman came on Saturday, but that Friday night they had a live Rampage where they had their big wild street fight.
Oh, okay.
Where Adam had the halo of barbed wire on his head that everybody got offended by. They referred it to Jesus and all that, and they flew in that night in the middle of the night and got there that morning. And
I suppose Adam Cole could kind of look like a white Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He was cool. Him and his I guess they're married. Britt Baker. Hangman is down to earth. Most of them. Most of them understand. They're nothing without us.
Yeah.
We pay for their stuff, tickets to watch them, their merchandise, and stuff like that. And they try to interact with you. I try not to talk to a lot of them. If I saw Bret Hart, it'd be different probably. I almost made it to Knoxville last year. He did a expo down there in August. I got stuck at work and couldn't make it. So I was hoping he'd be doing the local Lexington Comic Con.
Yeah. But Danhausen was there, right?
Yeah. He was there. He's always at Squared Circle, at least for one day. Most people have somebody that takes your money or takes their money and will give you change because most of them people like doing cash. Some do cards. But he does his own. He's just got a lot of money in his pocket.
The only wrestler I ever met at a convention, well, it's not a wrestler, but I met Cornette when he came to Scarefest in Lexington because he's obviously he's a big comic collector.
Yeah.
So this is pre-podcast days. So like nobody was even at his table. He was at a horror movie convention. My uncle and I went right up to him and just chatted with him for like a half hour. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah. I got to listen to him. He was at a Lexington Comic Con, one of the first ones he did.
Yeah.
I did his panel, but I didn't get to meet him. Back then I didn't have the money. Now it's easy to plan for this stuff every year. You got a year to save up for autographs and it hits around tax time, which is even better. So
now, how many shows do you typically go to in a year? Because you're always going to shows.
I'd say at least maybe 6 to 8.
Wow.
I've been going to a lot of. I've been doing a lot more indie shows. We live in Kentucky, and most recent indie show was right over the river. Cordona, Jake Christ. I don't know if everybody's heard of the guy, but everybody's sleeping on him. VSK. This guy is got it. And
Cordona, I don't know if I've seen him or not.
He's been on Impact. He's been on Dynamite. I think it was on Dark or one of them.
Yeah.
Cordona just tweeted out after that show that we just wrestled or they wrestled at a few weeks ago about it. They same thing I said. People were sleeping on the guy. But VSK, Google him, YouTube him, like he's the real deal. But Carlito, he was at Squared Circle. He was at this show.
I think he's going back to WWE.
I hope he does. Nothing's changed about him except his hair got bigger.
Well, there's he's a lot more jacked than he was last time he was around.
He's had a lot
he looks like he ate himself, and like that's what he looks like now.
Yeah.
But there's a new independent promotion up my way in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, called New South Wrestling, and they were gonna have Carlito, and they just posted something today that Carlito had to cancel all his upcoming independent appearances, and it seems very likely that he's going to have another WWE run.
Yeah. I think that's going to happen. They need to save him for SummerSlam. He don't need to come back in Money in the Bank. I don't think they're doing I don't know if they got a July show or not this year. They do so many shows I can't keep up with them, but
I don't even know.
SummerSlam in Detroit, which I'm thinking about going to. It's just a 6-hour drive up the interstate. I mean, but I go to about. I've already been to what? Well, in the last 6 months, I've been to 2 AEWs. The AEW where Mark Briscoe, right after Jay had died, was here in Lexington. Got to attend that.
I was at that one as well. Yeah,
that was pretty touching.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know a lot of people make fun of wrestling fans because you grow up on that stuff. When something happens like that to somebody, I was even sad when the Iron Sheik died last week.
Yeah,
because now I'm gonna miss his Twitters about Hulk Hogan because.
I loved his appearances on the Howard Stern show. They were just completely off the wall.
Yeah, he was a special person. He was great.
One of our audience members, Joe Graham, said that July 1st is Money in the Bank.
All right, so they won't do nothing after that till SummerSlam. So that'll be the perfect time to bring Carlito back, but don't do it on a Raw or SmackDown.
Well, what do you think they're going to have Carlito do? I mean, do you think he's just going to put people over, or like what do you think he's going to do?
Knowing them, they'll put in that LWO, but I think they already got way too many people as it is.
Oh yeah, because he came out during the Puerto Rico show, didn't he? During Backlash.
He said on, I'm not sure what podcast he was on, but he wasn't going to wear the shirt out there. They asked him to wear the LWO shirt, but he's like, all right, well, they ain't gonna stay on long. And I think within 10 seconds of being in the ring, he done ripped it off. So, but but he can come back and he could be a world champ.
You think so? At his age,
I think the fans would get behind him for one run. Like same thing if Cardona, whenever he comes back to WWE, I know he said, if money's right, creative's right, which obviously that would have to happen, but he would make a good world champ.
Now, if he came back, do you think they would let him be Matt Cardona, or would they force him to go back to the old Zack Ryder gimmick?
I think he's now, for everything he's done, he's got enough pull like Cody did when he came back. Because Cody said, Nightmare,
do it his way.
My music, he did it. He's got it his way. I think he's got enough credentials now. He's proved himself that he could get. And plus, we all thought there was a new regime running WWE, but apparently the man's back.
Bait and switch. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I tell you to expect the unexpected, and they got us. We had hope for a month, but he thought growing the mustache would he could hide away from everybody. But
he thought that he needs to put on like a striped suit, and he would look just like Gomez from the Addams Family.
Yeah. He I always thought about how many people would actually be sad when Vince actually passes away, because what
just don't ask Ryback his thoughts.
Yeah, God, that guy. If he don't get his Twitter or whatever verification or whatever he keeps constantly just tweeting about, I follow the guy because I like to see him.
I follow him too, yeah.
But I get so tired of hearing about it. Who cares if you're not verified? Everybody knows who you are.
Elon Musk, the WWE is suppressing my social media, and I'm trying to sell my protein powder.
Yeah. He's doing good for himself. And this whole match he wants with Goldberg, I hope that does not happen. If that shows up on AEW's All Out in Wembley.
So let's put this into perspective here. If Ryback does face Goldberg in his retirement match, which one of them is getting a concussion?
I think the fans. I think the fans are going to go run their head into the wall next to their couch.
I like that answer. That's a good answer. I like that.
I don't. And concussions aren't fun. I've had 5 in my life, and they suck. So, luckily, my memory's still here, and I just turned 40 this week. And
well, congratulations and happy birthday to you.
Appreciate it. I still remember my wrestling growing up. So,
of course, you and I are the same age. I turn 40 next month. So.
Yeah, it's it's just another day. But yeah,
It's Jericho versus Sting, F and Wrestling says.
Yeah, I seen they teased that last night. After Jericho just tweeted back to somebody on Twitter earlier this week that somebody mentioned something about him and Sting. He said it'll never happen. I don't think it'll happen 1-on-1. I think it'll be a 6-man tag match, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if Sting's going to do a 1-on-1. Sting, I get so nervous when I see Sting. And the reason why is that Sting is literally 1 day older than my dad.
Yeah.
And that scares the hell out of me. Because I'm just thinking, like, please don't break a hip. Yeah. Please don't, like, crack your head open.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to meet him once. He's a pretty chill guy.
Now, was that when they came to Lexington and he was with TNA? Is that when you met him?
No, he was already with AEW. It was a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right
because you went to, and here's another noteworthy thing too. We kind of talked about this before we went on the air. You went to Dynamite in Cincinnati,
yeah.
And you and your son were like up close on camera singing Judas, right?
Yeah, we were with a couple other people, my buddy and his son. We actually had seats in the back of the arena, the Cincinnati arena. This is the arena by the Red Stadium. This ain't the first Cincinnati arena they did a show in on Cincinnati campus. They actually did it in the arena this time. But I ended up buying front row 3 days before the show. The backstory to that is I'd quit my job at 10 years, cashed out my 401k, just got it in, seen 4 front row seats available, and I was like, click.
Yeah, so F you, former employer.
Yeah, so
I'm going to watch some wrestling.
Yeah, so we went down to the seats, and the kids were like, "Oh, this ain't our seats." I'm like, "We're just gonna go down and take pictures with in the stage and the ring." And we did that, and I'm like, "All right, sit down." They're like, "Huh?" I'm like, "These are our seats," and they were pretty excited. I was excited, but I had a mask on, so you couldn't see the excitement on my face. I had a Excalibur orange and white and black mask on.
Okay.
And I tweeted to him that, "Hey, I'm representing you tonight, front row," figuring the guy might tweet back or something, that he didn't. So,
what a bastard!
What a bastard! But
how ungrateful.
Yeah, that was championship night. It was the night that Hangman got hurt. Pretty stiff shot.
Yeah, that's when he went up against Moxley, right? And Moxley like knocked his head off.
Yeah, and then it was pretty. Seeing it that close in person, that was. And I'm in AEW. I'm Hangman, big fan. But that made the arena be pretty quiet until MJF. They improvised. I think he came out and they set up the match with him and Moxley for the pay-per-view. But the highlight of that night, Dalton Castle.
Dalton Castle.
He wrestled Jericho that night.
Yeah.
His entrance, like his mannerisms, like he's got charisma. He's
a star, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't see why they don't use him more.
Yeah, he impressed me more than anybody that night. And we didn't get to see many matches because they didn't do Rampage. It was this championship night. It was on a Tuesday. It was all jacked up how they did everything. But so we didn't get the experience that we got last show we went to. We had Rampage. We had a full Dynamite and everything. So, but yeah. But whoever is running AEW's production, they either need to be fired or they need some training, because there's a lot of shots they put on TV that they don't need to be putting on TV. Hey, I'm gonna pull my blade out of when the camera's on me, or last night there was a shot of Moxley
talking to one of the Bucks, right?
The mat, like, hey, while Eddie Kingston's in the ring beating up Claudio. I'm like, yo, they don't, stuff like that. I mean, I know I don't want to say they're a new company anymore. They've been around for a long enough time to understand what, it was great when they redid their stage and their graphics, stuff like that. And it's not great how they just blatantly copied Monday Nitro's logo.
Now, I have a theory about that. I think that they just kind of put this out almost kind of like concept art. And then I think after the show gets up and running, they're going to change it to something else.
But what if they have a stage similar to Nitro's set? The original Nitro set.
What if they have flames on the ring apron? Like,
Yeah.
And on the they had it on the mats too, didn't they? The flames.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, on the mats outside.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd mark out a little bit. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Throw back to Nitro. Now, speaking of Collision, we're gonna do a Collision post show here on Effin Wrestling. So if you want to tune into that, we'll be going live at 10 o'clock on Saturday night. What do you think about CM Punk coming back? Are you a fan or not?
If he's acted the way he's acted, like everybody says he is, obviously we don't know what happened. They're not going to talk about it publicly for, I'm sure, legal reasons. But I can see him acting the way that they're portraying him to act. I think he came back, and I think when he came back because he missed wrestling at first. You could genuinely see it in his face and his entrance. Obviously, it was Chicago. Even the first little bit of time that he was back, but then slowly, I think he just kind of went into business for himself, and which I don't know what their plan is with him now, but I wish they would have just let it go. Obviously they took him off the video game cover. He missed out on that payday.
They're still in the game though.
He's still in the game. Cody's in the game, but they're not going to promote it, obviously.
Yeah.
That they, yeah, he's. I hope he does right. I don't know what's left on his contract. I hope he gives us some memorable. I know FTR is really wanting to work with him.
Right.
I'm sure they're going to be 6-man tag champs at some point. That would be the only team right now that I can really see beating the House of Black.
Yeah.
And, it'd be believable. These guys got a chance because they're just wiping everybody else out right now. But
I love the House of Black.
Oh yeah, they finally got their due.
Yeah, they're finally hitting their stride. They've got the obviously they have the trios belts. They've got the cool entrance. They've got the deal where they black out the crowd whenever they do matches. Yeah. I love that. I think that's really cool.
I just hope they stick around long enough to where Rhea leaves WWE, if she's still with Buddy, shows up and takes out Julia Hart, and she's part of House of Black. That would be awesome.
How cool would that be?
They could run that for years.
That would be really cool. But I don't think Rhea's going anywhere though. I think she's she's going to make too much money in the E.
Yeah, she's only 27.
Yeah,
and she's special. She's a special talent. She could be the caliber of Charlotte Flair at some down the road. If given, obviously they're giving her the chance, but they'll have to get away from the dom crap, but let her go out on her own eventually, but back like she used to be. But
how funny was it when Max Caster made the comment about about Buddy Matthews being a cuck for Dom?
Yeah, that was great.
That was hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, I know he's gotten. I can't remember what he got in trouble for one time for what he said on TV, but I don't know that he runs everything by Tony Khan before he goes out there. But
I know he got in trouble, but I can't remember what the quote was about.
And I'm proud of Tony Khan.
In the chat remembers, let me know because I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm proud of Tony Khan because he finally stopped going out to the live crowd. He does his weekly big announcements, which
he's hot shotting it a little bit, right?
Yeah, but doing them backstage now is great because it seems like fans are already turning on the guy, but
right.
But no, AEW, they're never going to be WWE. I hate when MJF. I love the guy, but when he starts talking specifically about WWE and mentioning my name and Vince and Triple H and everybody, I hate that. You're trying to, when he brought up Adam Cole's promo with Karrion Kross, I think last week, didn't reference it, but you knew what it was. That's
he recited it almost like thought for thought.
Yeah, that something like that I'm okay with, but just blatantly calling them out when you have no leg to stand on, and you're not going to have a leg to stand on.
I think he tries the shock value thing a little too much of like, oh, I'm shooting. I'm talking about Vince. I'm talking about other people. I think he's kind of, it's okay if he does that once in a while, but I think he goes to the well a little too often with that.
Yeah. And, if he's, then what his contract up? I guess in January. Yeah.
January 2024, I believe,
Yeah.
is what I've heard.
So there's no telling what is going to happen on live TV coming in.
Do you think he goes to the WWE, or do you think he sticks around?
I think money wise, Tony will give him whatever he wants. But I think as far as him growing as a wrestler, the platform that he wants it. The act he wants what Rock. He wants Roman's doing movies and stuff. Cena, he can have all of that.
Right.
For going like his market value can just it's already high, but it can go. He can have a shorter career and a lot of money if he goes to WWE, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he would have to have some kind of contract about the what Hulk Hogan like creative control. He'd have to have some kind of limitations.
Oh no, let's not go that. Let's not go down that road. Yeah. That's not going to work for me, brother. Joe Graham says, "I think MJF is already re-signed." I kind of think he'll stick around in AEW too. I think he's just kind of bullshitting and just trying to get the crowd to talk by mentioning Vince and WWE and possibly leaving. I think he's full of it, honestly. But I guess we'll see come January 2024 if that's reality or not.
Yeah. And then one thing I don't like about MJF is his triple B is what he calls it. Right? I don't like the wrestlers having their own specific title. I mean, I just like when Stone Cold got his Smoking Skull belt. Even back then, a lot of people thought it was cool, but the Brahma Bull belt, I didn't like all that. They need to bring back the the Bret Hart WWE title.
What they call is the winged eagle, even though all eagles have wings.
Yeah, really. Yeah,
I mean, that is the best world championship. Yeah.
I don't own any replica belts yet, but if I get one, that'll be the one I get. So I'd like to get that one and have him sign that. That would be like my pride and joy. But
so you're going to SmackDown tomorrow night, right?
Yep. I will not be on TV. I'm sitting in the back.
You're not going to be front row this time, huh?
I'm not going to be down there and sticking my finger up and acknowledging Roman Reigns. He's advertised to be there to continue the story. I'll just be marking out for LA Knight. So
yeah, LA Knight's great.
If I
love the throwback West Coast hip hop music that he has. Like I dig that. I'm just glad they got him away from that Max Dupree shit because that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was how he agreed to that anyway. I would have walked out on him. I mean,
yeah, it was a Vince thing, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. If they would honestly, they should do like a round table with their talent, maybe every 3 months or something, and like you're jobbing. Like I have a thing every few months, how we're doing, how all that stuff. Talk to your talent, let them know this is where you see them going. This is what you have planned for them. Let them give their feedback. Maybe change some things. They may have good ideas that they, do stuff like that. Don't just write something for them like this is what I want you to do, which is why everybody loves AEW. They have quite a bit of freedom to do what they want there. Like WWE is great, but I think it could be better if they give the talent a little more.
The way that I always explain it is that I think AEW has better in-ring wrestling, but they have a much less controlled, less produced, kind of sometimes chaotic product.
Yeah.
Whereas WWE is a little more kind of formulaic, but they have much tighter controls and better production value.
Yeah.
Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Oh yeah, their production value is top notch. I mean, like especially when you go to a live show, everything looks big on TV, but if you've never been to a live wrestling TV show, it looks big on TV. It's smaller in person. Everything is scaled down. The cameras make it look bigger,
but I love the fact that like the sound is so much better. Like you can hear them thumping the mat.
Yeah.
Like it like the PA system, you hear it because they've got the ring mic'd up. It's like shaking the arena. Yeah. Like it's such a better aesthetic than watching it on television.
Yeah, this will be the first SmackDown I've been to since Ryder turned on Mojo. That happened in Rupp Arena in Lexington. So That was the last time they brought a live SmackDown taping there. So, which is a
Joseph
while.
Graham says LA Knight for Money in the Bank winner. Would you like LA Knight to win Money in the Bank?
Absolutely.
I think that would be cool.
I don't think they'll do it, but
as long as Kevin Dunn and his crash zooms and million cuts are gone. Yeah, sometimes the camera angles, the jump cuts and everything kind of do get annoying from time to time. I will admit that.
It's even annoying on their video games. I turn the camera cuts off and just play a wrestling match.
Now, are you going to get Fight Forever and play it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I as well.
I'm not paying for it. I got a birthday reward from my work, so I can cash it in at GameStop, so they're paying for it. So
nice. So what we'll have to do is when you get Fight Forever, I'll get Fight Forever. We will have to team with each other or go against each other, and we could do it live on the Effin' Wrestling Twitch. Would you be willing to do that?
Oh yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be like what we're used to growing up. The 64 games. Which
and I don't know if you remember this or not, but sometimes after school, I would come over to your house and we would play No Mercy. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, those games were the greatest, man. That was like the greatest wrestling game ever. Yep. And I hope that this can kind of capture the magic of that. I don't know if it can in 2023 without feeling too old and outdated, but I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah. And if anybody's planning on getting the game for presentation, don't. The entrances are only 10 seconds long.
Yeah.
But you can control the pyro.
I was going to say, you can like press a button and manually trigger the pyro. That's pretty cool.
And the cameras. But this is an arcade game, and very, very bloody, it looks like. But it's going to be a great game, but give it a week. They're probably going to put a ban on it because you can beat up women on the game.
Yeah.
I think that's going to end up being a thing against the game.
Well, I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, it's so over the top and overly fake. It's like having Katana versus Scorpion in Mortal Kombat, right? I think that's what they're going to kind of draw a parallel between.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. Your WWE games, mixed tag match, if you tag in the other sex, then they'll automatically, switch out and they won't road. But
it's like, look, we could put Britt Baker through a flaming table, okay? Or you could play Mortal Kombat and you could rip Katana's head off.
Yep.
So, which is worse?
Yep. And the new Mortal Kombat's going to be awesome. So.
Yeah, we do have a new Mortal Kombat coming out this year too. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm a big Mortal Kombat guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Well, we've gone an hour and 12 minutes here, so I think this is a pretty good stopping point. But this has been a great conversation, man. I've had a lot of fun doing this.
I can talk wrestling anytime. So,
dude, we're gonna have to do a part 2 to this because I feel like there's a lot. Like I had a list of things here, and we got to like 3 things. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the advertisements here. You can go to www.w.gg if you want to stay up all night and play Fight Forever. Get some W. It's an energy drink. It's for streamers. It's for podcasters. It's for people who want to be productive. Go to w.gg, use code Effin' Wrestling to get 10% off your first order. And you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Effin' Wrestling and you can buy some shirts, man. Tim, I want you to get an Effin' Wrestling shirt, man. And I'll show you a couple you can get right here. We've got the lovely Dollywood with the Magic of Wrestling t-shirt, which is my podcast with my partner, Liam Wakeland. We also have the Effin' Wrestling t-shirt modeled by NWA wrestler Natalia Markova. So you can get that as well. Probably won't look as good as her in it, but you can try. I wouldn't recommend wearing it as a belly shirt, but hey, more power to you if you do. We also run the Pro Wrestling Tees store, the official store of Adrian Adonis. So you can get an Adrian Adonis t-shirt like this one right here. The adorable Adrian Adonis got the middle finger stuck out there. And he is going to be on an upcoming episode of Vice's documentary series, Dark Side of the Ring. So that's going to be exciting. Are you very familiar with Adrian Adonis?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we run his store. So if you buy a t-shirt from there, it supports his family and supports effing wrestling. And that's it, man. Tim, thank you very much for being here, brother. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'll check the shirts out. I got to order me a Jack Vaughn t-shirt if anybody knows that guy.
Excellent.
So.
All right, everybody. Good night.